Have you ever felt your skin remember a touch before your mind could even process what it meant? That night, the air was thick with summer rain, and the lights had just gone out. I was standing in the basement with my son's best friend, Tyler, watching him fiddle with the breaker box like it was the most natural thing in the world. He was calm, confident, 23, and entirely too aware of the way he looked at me. I told myself I was just being paranoid, that I was imagining it, that the tension pulsing between us was just the storm. But when he left for an hour and came back, something shifted. It wasn't just what he did. It was what I let happen. And what I've carried since. 'Cause some mistakes don't scream. They whisper. And they never really let go. My name is Elise. I'm 46 years old, married for 22 of them, and mother to 2 boys. One grown and married in Oregon, and the other, Jake, still finding his footing at 19. My husband, Thomas, is a consultant, which means he's usually in a hotel room 3 states away while I keep the house running back here in Minnesota. It's not a bad marriage. Not explosive or dramatic. But that's part of the problem. Somewhere along the way, we stopped seeing each other. We became roommates with matching wedding bands. Comfortable, predictable, maybe even invisible. Jake's best friend Tyler, on the other hand, was anything but invisible. Tyler had been around since the 8th grade. He was always taller than the other boys, with a mop of dark hair he never quite tamed and a smile that was equal parts charm and challenge. The kind of kid who made teachers second-guess their instincts, polite enough to fool you, but sharp enough to get away with things you didn't realize had happened until much later. Over the years, Tyler became a fixture in our home. He'd wander in and out without knocking, grab snacks from the pantry like he lived there, and toss me the occasional "thanks, Ms. Clark" that made me smile even when I didn't want to. But he wasn't a boy anymore. Somewhere between high school graduation and that hot July evening, Tyler had changed. That night, the air was heavy with humidity, the kind that clings to your skin and makes the curtains stick to the window panes. The sky had turned a bruised purple just before the storm rolled in, and by 9 p.m., the thunder was shaking the walls. Thomas was in Denver for work. Jake had disappeared upstairs, headphones on, locked into some late-night online game with friends. And Tyler. He was in the living room with me, barefoot, shirt slightly damp from the rain that had caught him earlier. We were watching some forgettable movie, each of us pretending not to notice how close our knees were on the couch. When the power cut out, sudden and total, I jumped. The house fell into a humming silence, broken only by the rain tapping at the windows. "I got it," he said, grabbing the flashlight off the counter. "You stay here." But I didn't. I followed him into the basement. And in that moment, I stepped into a version of myself I didn't recognize. The basement always gave me a strange feeling. Not quite fear, but something close. Like the air was heavier down there. Like secrets lived between the boxes of Christmas decorations and old tax returns. The beam of Tyler's flashlight danced along the walls, casting long, shaky shadows. He crouched in front of the fuse box, fiddling with switches. I stood a few feet away, arms crossed, trying to ignore the tightening in my chest. "You don't have to be down here, you know," he said without looking up. "I didn't want you to trip over something," I replied, forcing a light tone. "And besides, it's kind of creepy down here alone." Tyler chuckled softly. "I always liked this basement. You can hear everything going on upstairs, but no one ever hears what happens down here." There was a pause just a beat too long. I shifted on my feet, searching for something to say. "You're good with this stuff," I offered, gesturing toward the fuse box. "Thomas still calls an electrician for everything." He turned and met my eyes for the first time since we came down. "Thomas doesn't deserve you." My heart skipped. "Don't say that." "Why not?" His voice was quiet, steady. "You're always alone. He's never around. I've seen the way you look when he calls and you fake that smile. You think nobody notices. You don't know what you're talking about," I said too quickly. But I knew he did. He stood then, flashlight down at his side, face lit only by the dim glow of a backup emergency light on the wall. He wasn't a kid anymore. And I wasn't just Jake's mom. I was a woman who hadn't been touched with intention in months, maybe years. I remember the first time I stayed over here, Tyler said, eyes locked on mine. You made French toast the next morning. I was 12, and I thought you were the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. I should have stopped it there. Should have told him to go home, told him he was crossing a line he couldn't uncross. But my throat felt tight and the words just wouldn't come. You're still beautiful, he added, stepping closer. My back was against the wall before I even realized I'd moved. His hand came up, slowly, and tucked a damp strand of hair behind my ear. I felt his fingers graze my cheek, linger just a second too long. I shouldn't, I whispered. But you want to, he said. His voice barely audible over the storm outside. Closed my eyes. Every instinct screamed at me to pull away. That I was being ridiculous, reckless, that nothing good could come of this. But beneath the fear, there was a flicker of something else. Something I hadn't felt in so long it startled me. Desire. Raw, unfiltered, and entirely wrong. I should go, he said suddenly, pulling back. I'll be back in an hour. He didn't wait for a reply. Just grabbed his hoodie and slipped out the door into the rain. I stood in the middle of the kitchen, breathing hard, hands still brushing the place he touched. My reflection in the window looked like someone I didn't recognize. Lips parted, chest rising and falling too fast. What had just happened? And why did it feel like it wasn't over? I should have gone upstairs, locked the door, pretended nothing had happened. But instead, waited. Like a match that's already been struck, just waiting to touch flame. The rain hadn't stopped when Tyler returned. If anything, it had deepened, soaking the world in silence, softening the edges of the night. I heard the front door creak open and close again. No knock. Just quiet footsteps on the hardwood floor, deliberate and slow. I stood in the kitchen, fingers curled around a mug of tea I hadn't touched. My heart pounded like I'd been running. When he appeared in the doorway, soaked to the bone, hoodie clinging to his frame, it felt like the pause before an answer you already know you won't like. He didn't speak, just looked at me. Not with lust, not anymore, but something heavier. Question. Challenge. Knowing. I didn't speak either. It was like we both knew that words would break the spell, or worse, make it real. He stepped forward and, without asking, took the mug from my hands and set it on the counter behind me. His hands brushed mine, warm despite the rain. 1 second. And then they were on my face, pulling me gently forward as if checking whether I would resist. I didn't. Our lips met. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't frantic. It was soft, reverent, almost like he didn't want to ruin the moment by hurrying it. My knees nearly gave out from the heat rushing through me. I felt seen, not as a mom or a wife or someone's support system, but as a woman. We didn't go upstairs. We didn't need to. It happened right there in the kitchen, under the soft flicker of candlelight and a blinking storm alarm, against the hum of an old refrigerator. And when it was over, we sat on the floor, backs against the cabinets, him tracing circles on my bare shoulder while I tried to remember how to breathe. That's when it hit me. Not the guilt yet. That would come later like a tidal wave. No, what hit me first was the unbearable truth. I had wanted this. Not just Tyler, but this, to be chosen, to be wanted, to feel alive. Somewhere between carpool lines and PTA meetings, I had disappeared from myself. And tonight he found me. Not with words. Not with flattery. But with the kind of touch that reminded me I still existed beneath all the layers I'd buried for everyone else's sake. I've loved you since I was too young to say it, he whispered, head resting lightly against mine. Tears sprang to my eyes. Not because I loved him back, but because part of me wanted to believe I could. That this wasn't just a moment stolen from real life, but the beginning of something true. But it wasn't. Because the truth is, love isn't always the reason. Sometimes it's just the crack in the dam. The single moment where loneliness and timing collide in a way that changes everything. When Tyler left an hour later, his eyes said goodbye. He knew, maybe better than I did, that this was something we could never revisit. Not without burning down everything around it. And in that silence, with my robe wrapped around me and the air still thick with him, I realized the most devastating truth of all. This wasn't about betrayal. It was about becoming someone I didn't recognize, and not hating her. I never told anyone. Not Jake. Not Thomas. Not my closest friend, even when she once asked, half joking, if I'd ever had a near miss with temptation. I just smiled and said, "Nope. I'm too tired for all that." And maybe that was true in a way. Maybe I was too tired. Tired of being good. Tired of carrying everyone else's needs like folded laundry, neatly stacked while my own gathered dust in the corner. Tyler never came back after that night. Not to the house. Not to Jake. Their friendship dissolved in silence, the kind that feels too big to name. Jake didn't understand, and maybe he still doesn't. Sometimes he looks at me with eyes that almost ask the question, but never quite do. Maybe he doesn't want the answer. Maybe I don't either. Thomas. He's still Thomas. Oblivious or willfully blind. I sometimes catch him staring at me longer than usual, like he senses something shifted but can't quite place it. He's been more present lately, more attentive. We talk more, even if it's just about grocery lists and weather. There's a new quiet between us, but it's softer than the last. Less brittle. As for me, I'm not the same woman who followed a boy into a basement and let a storm rearrange her. I'm not proud of what I did. But I'm not sure I'd undo it either. Because that night, wrong as it was, taught me something no therapist, no book, no confession ever could. Desire doesn't always knock on the door of love. Sometimes it slips through the cracks of neglect, finds the hollowed-out parts of you, and fills them just long enough to remind you they exist. We think betrayal is a sharp cut, clear wound. But more often, it's a soft unraveling. One unnoticed thread after another, until you look down and realize you're standing in the remains of the person you used to be. Carry it with me. All of it. The shame. The strange tenderness. And sometimes, late at night when the rain starts again, I wonder who I'd be if I'd said no. But I didn't. And now I live in the quiet between who I was and the woman I can't quite forgive.